Shall we go? Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to our third digital Italian table talks entitled As COVID-19 Uncorked the New World for Wines. Also, let me welcome all our friends that are following us from Italy. Ciao a tutti. My name is Gianfranco Sorrentino. I am the managing partner of Il Gattopardo Group, and I am also the president of Gruppo Italiano. Gruppo Italiano is a no-profit organization whose mission is to promote the Italian culinary sport here in the United States. Let me thank our friend Elias Lee, founder of Fill-In, for helping us organizing and run the technical aspect of this webinar. Let me thank also Daniela Puglielli of Accent PR. With her help, GI is now expanding into other cities such as Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, Houston, Los Angeles, Washington, DC, and Miami. We are very excited, of course, about it. So let me also welcome those viewers from those cities. Finally, I would like to thank Simona Cazzaniga from All About Italy magazine, our friend Sally Fisher from Sally Fisher PR, and of course, my wife, Paola Bolla Sorrentino, and David Ernst, who produced this event. Well, today we will be talking about wines, but before we start, I would like to make a few comments. The COVID-19 has not only been a devastating public health crisis, it has also been the restaurant industry's greatest challenge to date. Never before have so many restaurants been impacted so fast by a single event and forced to close. Some will never reopen. Early indication from China and other countries where the pandemic seems now to be under control suggest that consumer demand won't immediately rebound when restrictions are lifted. If this is the case in the US, restaurants have to plan ahead to adapt and refine their restaurant model for the next normal to be better positioned to bring sales back to pre-crisis level. But much remain uncertain about the pandemic effect. The hope of a quick economic recovery are still very much in question and fading. We estimate that of the 600,000 plus US restaurants that were in business in 2019, approximately 1 in 5 or more than 125,000 will be permanently closed by next year. Independent restaurants will bear the impact of the pandemic, mainly due to their minimal off-premise presence, their limited digital capabilities, and the unfavorable economic, thin margin of profit, and the poor access to capital. So, has the wine business been affected as much as the restaurant business? There are many problems facing the wine and liquor industry. A tariff on wine and cordial was partially applied, with more to be applied soon. The coronavirus and the closure of all restaurants has meant that on-the-premise business has been put on hold. But interestingly, wine and liquor consumption is higher than ever. Retail sales seems are up 57% over the last few months of the pandemic. And of course, the brands with a very recognized name are doing great with both retail and online sales. What this means specifically for Italian wines. After the sale of American wine, which total about $41.8 billion, wine from Italy are by far the largest category of imported wine with almost 1.2 billion a year. More than Australia number 2 that is 720 million, New Zealand with 496 million, and the fourth France with 462 million. Of course, Italy has been benefit from the hot market for sparkling wines in general, particularly Prosecco, and of course the Pinot Grigio. And however, the most popular wine varieties in the United States market based on volume continue to be Chardonnay and the Cabernet Sauvignon. Also, let's not forget the small, unknown artisanal producer Who and how are they going to promote and sold in the USA? Is the relation among the small boutique importer distributor and restaurant more important than ever now that the restaurant can sell wine with their food deliveries? And what are we Americans doing to promote American wines and how we foresee the post-COVID-19 market? And the last but not least, with the Bill Dahill, we will talk about the PPP and how it's changed. It's now more helpful. So as you can see, we have a lot in the plate to talk about. So let me start right away with introducing our moderator and our panelists. Gino Colangelo, he has been my friend for many years and runs one of the most knowledgeable PR organization on wine in New York City. Gino founded Colangelo Partner Public Relations after spending over 10 years of his career in global communication. Before that, he spent another 10 years managing his own retail business. Our esteemed panelist, Liberto Frescobaldi, president of the Frescobaldi Group. He produces 11 million bottles of wine each year across 6 Tuscany estates, employs 500 people, and has an annual turnover of around 95 million. Liberto, I don't work for the IRS, so don't worry. Marqueso Frescobaldi is a 30th generation winemaker and president of the Frescobaldi Group. He's joining us from Italy. Peter Mondavi, together with his brother Mark, is a 3rd generation co-owner of Charles Krug Winery in Napa Valley. The grandson of Cesare and Rosa Mondavi has a degree in mechanical engineer from Stanford University, and Peter is joining us from California. I also welcome Nunzio Castaldo, president at Panebianco Wine Import. And yesterday, Nunzio celebrated the 2nd anniversary, so happy anniversary, Nunzio.
Thank you very much, Gianfranco.
He was also the former senior president with the 30 years at Winebow. So we welcome him from New York City. We have Camilla Rossi Chauvenet. Camilla is the owner of the Massimago Winery, a young wine company run by young people. The average age is less than 35 years. Camilla is the true heart and brain of the Massimago Winery, and she's also joining us from Italy. And last but not least, to help us better understand the legal aspect of the federal government ongoing programs, we are delighted to welcome back our previous 2 Italian Table Talk webinar, William Dahill, partner at the Dunnington Bartholomew Miller LLP. Gino, is all yours.
Thank you very much, Gianfranco. And thank you in advance to all our panelists. Really appreciate your time. So I'm going to give a brief perspective as a communications professional who focuses primarily on fine wine and very much on Italian wine. There were several trends happening even before COVID-19, and COVID-19 has accelerated those trends. First, there's been a convergence of commerce, selling wine, and communications. For example, wine.com, which is the #1 seller of wines online, is developing more and more content, meaning like media company. 750, the #1 online marketplace for the trade, came out with a media company themselves. Media wants to sell things. You know, VinePair is selling, Wine Enthusiast is in the sales business. So there's a lot of convergence between commerce and communication. That was a trend that was happening before, happening more now. 2, a breakdown of the 3-tier system. No offense, Nunzio, but we know that brands cannot rely on importers to do the work for them, to build their brand, right? And to tell their story. They help, but they cannot be entirely relied on to do that. Brand owners now are speaking much more frequently to directly to consumers. Liberto just did a tasting with some consumers in Los Angeles on Sunday. It's storytelling and brand building plus selling. There are some direct selling models that allow Italian wineries to go direct to consumers in America, bypassing the traditional imported distributor tiers entirely. Things like Benchmark Wine Group or VinConnect. So that's another trend that has been accelerated by COVID. Third, there's a movement toward a more hybrid strategy of event marketing, meaning digital plus in-person. Harvard Business School did a study 2 years ago about the efficiency that digital events offer and the return on investment and the opportunity to connect with a consumer. Of course, digital cannot entirely replace in-person events. We're in the wine business. That's about tasting and experience and about people connecting. But this movement toward a hybrid of digital and in-person was happening before, and it's happening more now. I think that producers are learning they can save a lot of time and money by connecting digitally. One trend, interestingly, that has not accelerated is the decline in wine sales. So in 2019, wine sales in the US went down for the first time in 25 years. They were down 1%. This is according to IWSR research. So interesting, pre-COVID, wine sales were down, hard seltzer, spirits were gaining. Since COVID, wine sales are trending up. That's very, very interesting. Not great for our restaurant friends, but encouraging for wine producers. Many consumers are reallocating money that they would spend in a restaurant to buying better wine. And the biggest growth category is $20 to $25. Also a very positive trend for wine producers. We know there are huge challenges. Fine wine has traditionally been built on premise with sommeliers, with restaurateurs like Gianfranco, and restaurants will come back slowly. Fine wine dining will come back even slower. Fine wine retailers cannot hand sell in their stores like they used to. Consumers are buying, they're not shopping. Events are non-existent right now, at least in-person events. But there's also a lot of opportunities in addition to challenges. We talked about consumers buying and not shopping, and consumers buy brands. Well, Italy is a brand. Italy in itself is a brand. Tuscany is a brand. Prosecco, Chianti Classico, Brunello, all brands. So if you're making wine that is within those denominations or simply Italian wine, sell on brand. Online sales are up 234%. They won't continue at that pace of growth, but they absolutely will continue to be sold more and more online. Retail sales are up, as Gianfranco said, more than compensating for losses on premise. And the biggest growth is, again, in price categories that we all want to be in, $20 plus. There's more e-commerce coming. 750 is launching something called storefronts, which will help independent retailers launch their e-commerce more effectively. There's a lot more data models that are helping retailers target consumers and sell better online. Here's a quote from Nielsen. Over the COVID period to date, Italian table wines have maintained a significant lead in imported wine. So not only is wine performing well off-premise and online, but Italian wine is performing particularly well. Thus far, Italy has been lucky to avoid the carousel tax. We don't know what will happen in the future, but for now, Italy still has an advantage. So what specifically can Italian wineries do to compete? Well, how many wine producers are collecting data and then at the winery visits, you know, when you have a passionate consumer who's having a great experience, and then communicate back to that consumer by email, or gather emails through social media and communicate back. Diversify sales channels. Reallocate dollars spent on travel and events to digital marketing initiatives in order to build your consumer base. Work with your importers and distributors to create retail selling opportunities where you're telling your brand story, but you're also selling your wine. And then, of course, the basics, like basic scoring submissions, maintaining your profile on Vivino and wine.com. How many wineries are going to wine.com or Vivino where you can self-load videos, scores, photos to help promote your wines on those very valuable channels. Really leverage Brand Italy to sell. It's a challenge right now, but there's also lots of opportunities. And there's a great quote from Mao Zedong, the Chinese revolutionary hero. Quote, "Everything under heaven is in utter chaos. The situation is excellent." End quote. Well, I wouldn't say the situation is excellent, but I don't believe it's altogether hopeless either. So with that, I'd like to introduce Liberto Frescobaldi, president of Tuscany's leading wine family and company. Liberto?
Good evening, Gino. Good evening, Gianfranco and Peter, Camilla, Nunzio, William. Lovely to be together. And yes, indeed, there are challenges. There are big challenges everywhere. This is something that is totally new for us, for all of us, and for us as wine producers. That these challenges are from Australia to Hawaii. So anything in between, it has been hit by what is happening. COVID has been, I don't want to get into if it was overreacted or whatever, but definitely this is what we are happening, is now we're going through. Camilla is in a beautiful area of Italy where you're starting to have tourists again, because I was there in the region just Friday. And yet in Tuscany, very, very loose. Restaurant business is very difficult, it's very tough in downtown. You have to know that Italy has roughly 65 million tourists every year. So from 65 million, we went average, of course, 25, but we're now down to 0. COVID is a challenge, but we have to always have also the time of looking at the glass half full and also not half empty. This is going to be a great opportunity for consumers. Quality is going to have to be, we're going to have to rise quality. Gianfranco with Gattopardo is going to have to do a great job. Nunzio with his Pane Bianco is going to have to do a great job. Has been said something that I don't totally agree, that the treaty system is going to be over. Yes, we're going to have to help our distributors, our importers, because wineries cannot think that they can do something and then, Nunzio, go out there and do it for us. We're going to have to help them out even greater. So we're going to have all the tools that these days technology gives us. And so wineries are going to have to speak a little bit more and think a little bit more at 360 degrees around them. COVID is something that I hope we will not have this something again in my lifetime. I want to get the hell out of here before seeing this thing again. But definitely, as I said, an opportunity to raise our mind thinking of service, of quality, because the best has not been done yet, so we can do absolutely better. There are some challenges also now, as you mentioned, Gino. The carousel, so more taxes can be, they may be put also on Italian products, that there were, some of them were skipped the first time. I think this is going to be, I must say that this is going to be, who is going to be the loser in this is not going to be the Italians or the Spanish or the French that have been already hit by this, is the consumer. Because the consumer then is going to pay more for what he wants. So in this moment, I think that this is not right. We have to put the consumer right at the center of the project. The consumer must be somewhat preserved by all this politic thing going on, and we have to do our job. That is, for what I can personally speak about myself, be more efficient and more quality driven. This is pretty much what we can do in these days, and of course also we are doing it back here. We are helping out people that have lost their job. We're helping. We're giving cash to families that they really having difficulties on getting at the end of the month, and helping. Now we are starting a program for young kids that they are boxed at home, that they have not even had the opportunity to go to school. That they, instead this summer, we want to give them the opportunity to stay together, go in the country, play in the fields, and so we're doing something especially for young kids. So COVID is a challenge, but I hope that we're gonna get out as being better people.
Thank you very much, Liberto. Let us now hear from the perspective of an American wine company owner and a member of one of the world's great wine family, another member, a member of one of the world's great wine families, Peter Mondavi. Peter?
Thank you, Gino, and good afternoon, good evening to everyone out there, and appreciate the invitation to join this amazing group here. What I'd love to do is first of all, put our winery in context of the whole COVID situation. So not every winery or business is in the same situation. So we're the oldest winery in Napa Valley, founded in 1861 by Charles Krug. Fourth generation, not as many generations as Frescobaldi's, but pretty good for California. So during a crisis here in the United States, we've experienced that Great Recession, that consumers tend to lean towards trusted, well-known brands, and we're benefiting to a certain degree from that. Our distribution makeup, actually about 9% of our Charles Krug volume is sold direct to consumers. About a third of our Charles Krug volume actually used to go through restaurants. Now that segment, as you all know, down 95%. For our numbers. But as we have a multitude of channels, I think diversification is our strength. What I'd like to do now, just briefly share a screen just to show you, because we have a fairly complicated family tree with reference to the wine industry. So let's see here. Gino, is that up? Is it?
Yep, it's up, it's good.
Okay, good. So just real quick, my grandparents, Cesare and Rosa Mondavi, born in Italy, married in 1908, immigrated over with virtually nothing. They came from the Marche region. No wine history in our background. But my grandfather was quite an entrepreneur and started shipping fresh wine grapes from California back east for home winemaking during Prohibition era. So very successful, allowed them the opportunity to buy Charles Krug Winery in 1943. That's where my dad, Peter, and my uncle Robert ran it together. And then in 1966, Robert split off. Shortly after that, Dad bought his ownership out of Charles Krug. So Charles Krug remains wholly owned by my family's branch, Dad's branch. Robert did sell his winery in 2004, and his kids went off at other wineries. Tim and Marcy started Continuum, Michael with Folio, an import company, which many of you may know because he imports a lot of Italian family-owned wineries. And then we have the fourth generation joining us, and they've embarked on a series of their own personal brands. Two of Tim's kids with Rain, cross-pollination with Michael's son and Mark's daughter, Angelina and Rob with Fourth Leaf, and then Mark and Janice's 4 kids, actually have 2 brands, Napa Valley brands, Dark Matter and Aloft. And our 2 kids, the youngest of everyone in the 4th generation, our daughter actually graduated last year, is working in London, however, working very remotely at home now. And our son actually graduated 2 years ago with a master's in engineering, works in the automotive sector in northern Italy. So he lives in Bologna. And as you know, in Italy, he's been quite sequestered, but starting to open up now. So I hope that gives you a little outline of our family. But let's talk about the COVID impact here, particularly in Napa Valley. Now, wineries are considered an essential business because they're agriculturally based and servicing the grocery stores throughout the United States. With that said, though, all aspects of hospitality here and service in Napa Valley have been shut down, which is an important part of our local economy. It's just starting to a slow reopening process. In fact, just this last weekend, we were able to greet guests at our hospitality center, but outside. So what are we doing here at Charles Krug to adapt to this situation, this crisis? So let me break it down in kind of 3 areas. So our national 3-tier distribution system, our distributors have furloughed a number of their on-premise salespeople. So our sales force is directly engaging now with our retail customers and what on-premise people are still active and we can. A lot of our on-premise selling efforts have been shifted towards the off-premise. However, we are proactively preparing on-premise programs as the restaurants start to open up around the country. Of course, virtual and phone contact is ramped up to offset the lack of the face-to-face time that our salespeople really cherish. But as we all know, this is a relationship business, and we're taking advantage of our long-term relationships, both at the retail level and at the distributor level. We've also really expanded our sales efforts towards the online delivery platforms. That's really it's been around for a while, but a new segment for us. And we're also looking at helping out some of the smaller wineries who lack the infrastructure and history within the distribution network. So that's something we're entertaining now, which is totally new for us. So stay tuned on that one. But as was mentioned, people are still consuming wine. But there's a significant channel shift. The question is how long will it take to get back to pre-COVID norms? That's a very open question. Now, on the marketing side of things, we are still engaging the press, but virtual tasting seminars, online interviews as well. We even did a family cooking class from our home kitchen for a series of press people, and we're crafting gnocchi, which our daughter coming from London was quite helpful because she actually works for a fresh pasta startup there, does home deliveries, and has been doing a lot of work in the pasta arena in the UK. Anyway, funny little side note. So hospitality at the winery, very important for us. As I mentioned, Napa Valley is at a standstill. It really parallels the impact in the restaurant sector. But we're still engaging our consumer, not still, but we're engaging our consumers through virtual tastings and virtual experiences, something new for us. I've done a lot of work with country clubs with their captive audience. So it's really easy to get wine to them and reach out to them and coordinate that effort. And of course, the telephone outreach program with our hospitality staff to keep some of them employed, and online programs have been greatly enhanced. As mentioned, we just opened up this last weekend. A lot of constraints similar to that of restaurants around the country. Reservations are required, sanitation protocols are critical, and they need to be explicit to allow a level of comfort with those guests coming in and our employees. A lot of training, contactless payments, things like that, things that you're probably aware of. Currently, it's only outdoors. I understand they're going to allow indoor in the next few weeks. We'll see where that happens. But we do food service at our winery as well. Pizzas are the main offering. But lots of interest in this due to the long time. But it's going to be a long time before I realize the pre-COVID traffic back again at Napa Valley and at our winery. It's going to be quite some time, probably well into next year. And we're shifting our focus for our hospitality center for day trippers. We have 8 million people in the San Francisco Bay Area, and reaching out to them. So it's a day drive. They can come up, enjoy the Napa Valley, and be back at their home in the evening. Don't have to worry about the problems of staying at hotels, things like that. But as a wrap up, over 4 generations of family ownership, we've been through a lot of challenging times, not as challenging as the current one, but through the perseverance and strong team that we have here, we're going to be here for generations to come. So with that, Gino, thank you, and I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you very, very much, Peter. Very inspiring. Now we'll get the perspective of an importer, a veteran of Italian wine importing, both on the boutique fine wine with Pane Bianco, which Nunzio just celebrated 2 years, we just heard. And then prior to that, many years at Winebow managing the Italian portfolio. Nunzio? Nunzio, you're on mute, so you have to unmute. Oh, there we go.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gino, and thank you, Gruppo Italiano, Gianfranco Sorrentino. I'm a member, proud member of this organization, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this panel. I'd like to say hello to everyone that was listening to us, especially our friends in Italy. Buonasera a tutti. Well, the discussion is very articulated, obviously, and one thing that I have to say as an importer, a distributor, we needed to make a kind of a distinction between the small boutique and medium-sized importers and distributors versus the one that, they're larger in the organization and also in portfolio as well, and the reach, obviously, that they can take. So I hope and I think that I speak with the mind of many small importers and distributors like me. Pane Bianco Wines Import is a company that was founded by someone that is not here anymore. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2015. His name was Livo Pane Bianco. And he framed this portfolio in a very, I would say, simplistic way. Family tradition producers, varietals, and appellations. Even if those appellations were unknown. Well, after 34 years in the trade and 32 years spending in a great organization called Winebow, I decided to go back on the basic, and I acquired this company 2 years ago. We are an importer and distributor in 2 states as a direct distribution, New York and New Jersey. And we have a plethora of, I would say, about a dozen of distributors around the country. The mission remained the same. Obviously, have to regreen a little bit, revamp a little bit of the portfolio, but we are very focused on the same principle. I have a team of 8-9 people. They are excellent people that that they go out there in the market and try to mission what I believe is a great statement for our organization. Pane Bianco is not alone. Pane Bianco has other colleagues, and there are many other companies that unfortunately they are sharing these are very hard times. Pane Bianco is a company that is focused on the restaurants, and being the restaurants shut down, the trade obviously Pane Bianco is suffering quite a bit. But I have to say that I remain optimistic. I think that in every tragedy, there is always a silver lining. And I do believe that, that the revamping of this trade in the restaurant business, it will re-engage again, not only a company like mine, but also larger company, obviously. But we need also to face some changes. Now, it is time that I agree with Gino when we were saying before that our laws, our three-tier system has to be revised. You know, I won't mind, you know, to really, you know, connect directly with the consumer. At the end of the day, those are the decision makers, you know, and I think it's time, you know, that just producer like Frescobaldi and Mondavi and hundreds of those, they need to get in touch with, you know, with the final consumer in any shape or form. If it's a visit at the winery, if it's a connection with digital, or if it's a communication through emails, or even sending samples. It will only facilitate our job as an importer and as a distributor, and I believe that it will facilitate also the job of the restaurateurs. Just a couple facts that, you know, they're already out there. I do believe that, you know, that the restaurant business will revamp. It will revamp if we'll, you know, if it will stay with the same mission. Millions of people, they want to go back and in the restaurants, sit down, relax, have a glass of wine, have a beautiful dish of a meal that, you know, that over a meal that, you know, that it would be going, you know, it would be a statement that, you know, that life is coming back to them. As I was saying to Gino before, I can't wait, you know, to go back on my old habits. I can't wait to go to my barber. I cannot wait, you know, to have simple things, you know, like a cup of coffee, you know, sharing with my friend Gianfranco, for example, and speaking about the old stuff. Because at the end of the day, yes, Lamberto, if you allow me to say, and Peter, they were saying that, you know, it's about relationship. Our business is about relationship. And I fully agree with, you know, with Mr. Mondavi that we will overcome this very difficult time. The United States, especially American markets, have been, at least for my time, already under siege. You know, the year that I started in the business was the year of the methanol scandal. You can imagine, you know, a young guy like me, you know, going to a restaurant and says, can I talk about Italian wines? When there was a huge scandal. And we overcame that. Not only we selling now more wines from import side, obviously, because you have to remember that every 4 bottles that we drink in the United States, 3 are domestic and 1 is imported. And we are lucky enough that we work very hard to reach that 25% of that 1 bottle that is imported as in Italian wines. Doesn't matter if it's a Prosecco, Pinot Grigio, or Moscato, or Sangiovese. It is Italian wines, and we are very proud of it because we worked very hard. The value for each unit of the bottle increased so much, and we are getting closer and closer and closer to our, you know, competitors, cousins, you know, depends about the view of French wines, you know. So we need to increase that kind of quality. And you are right, Gino. We need to increase the momentum of the Made in Italy, because Made in Italy is a franchising. Now is the time that, you know, that every trade they have to combine together. The furniture, the optical, the fashion, the wine trade, everybody have to pull up together because we need to reinstate that kind of a leadership that we had for many, many years. I am so optimistic that, you know, that we're going to go back to, you know, to not to the normality of before, because we need to change a few things, because the habits, obviously, you know, they will be different, you know, but numbers, they are optimistic already. The 25th of May opened, you know, some markets like Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Well, numbers are there up in restaurants. Year to year, we are, you know, closing that gap. We are only losing 30%. When California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts will go back again, even if it's a 50% capacity, is a start, and people will, you know, will be part of that research. Because if something that, you know, that really signs as something that, you know, that really struck me is that, you know, that during the last 2 weeks, the protesters, you know, they were all young. they respected the distance, not the distance, but the safety with the mask, with the gloves sometimes, with everything else that that they needed to protect with. But they were young people that they went outside because they couldn't wait anymore. They wanted to be outside for any reasons, but they wanted to be outside. And I'm sure the same people that they went out there to protest, they're going to enjoy again, a glass of wine, to a wine bar, to a local wine bar, to restaurants, and to be together. I was reading a very interesting survey the other night, and there are three things that everyone will do after this lockdown. As a New Yorker, we are going to be obviously later on. First one is to visit friends. The second one is to visit family members. And the third one is to go to restaurant. Well, that's good news for me. Speaking about the small importer distributors, our mission is above and is behind selling fine wines. My concern is for those small producers, if he's on the Costa Amalfitana, or if he's from Etna, or if he's from one valley from Valpolicella, or even for Alto Piemonte, or even for the north of Sardinia, those producers, those talents, we cannot waste it. And I hope that that the interest that the consumers had towards those wines, towards those varietals, towards those producers will come back again. And it will all up to us. Before Liberto Frescobaldi said something that is very true. I mean, this is the moment to regroup, the importer, the distributors, the restaurateurs, the wine shop, through the consumer, because we need to now have this pipeline as strong as it never was before. One thing that I would like to add before I conclude is, I understand that many companies, especially large companies, they furlough, or unfortunately they cut off many of my colleagues, and please rethink about that. I would like to say to the big companies, because there is a lot of talents out there that that we cannot afford to lose. Brand managers, portfolio managers, salespeople, marketing people, any public relation people. Those are people that that they really built this successful story of the wine trade, fine wines. Doesn't matter if it's from New Zealand or if it's from Australia, or it's Italy, Spain, France, or California. But these are the people that that they really drive the passion for this trade. And for the restaurateurs, I would like to say, don't give up, because everything will be readjusted, realigned, but will we come back? Because at the end of the day, it's a passion that you cannot push down. Passion you cannot pull up. Passion is a passion. Passion for fine dining, passion for for fine wines, passion to stay socializing cannot be blocked. So that's my thought.
Thank you very, very much, Nunzio. And our final panelist, Camilla Rossi Chavonnet, is a boutique producer of Amarone. Camilla?
Yes, it's an honor to be representing small producers, especially among prestigious people and legends in the world of wine. Despite producing some of the best wine in the world, we are facing the same situation of other small producers who are selling on trade. We haven't received any orders in the last couple of months. However, we are really positive because we discovered the key to establishing an intimate relationship between our clients and us. I think, especially for small producers, that we now have to learn a new skill, be able to entertain our final customers and share, as Nunzio was telling before, share our knowledge and our passion in a digital way. In these months, I have participated and organized some few smart tasting digital virtual tasting, presenting our wine. And we entered in hundreds of homes, 1,000 kilometers from our winery. And, you know, this opportunity makes me understand the value of this new tool called in Italy Smart Tasting. And also thought and discovered the differences that we can take advantage of. For example, you know, on trade, you never have the adequate and quality time to present your wine because constant disruptions and stress the restaurant owner are under. So you will never have the ideal conditions and the temperature, taking your bottles from one place to another, and probably in the same day. So how different it is to experience a holiday visiting Massimago, for example. People look forward to hear the story of the first generation startup and relaxing. They're gonna probably be our ambassador for sure, certainly. So that's why, for me, in my opinion, we could only imagine how much significant is communicate. Thanks for sure to the right distributor or an open mind importer, but communicate directly to the final customers. In this way, probably we small producer, we will help and support our clients to promote and sell our wines much more frequently, and staying much more closer to them, saving money from hotels and flight, and investing in promotion. I think our hope is to create a long-term relationship, so to create loyal customers that can recognize a face behind a wine and perhaps a destination to visit in his next holidays. So this is my opinion. I know I really appreciate Nunzio when he said that the really important right now to focus on relationships, because wine is relationships. I agree with him totally. So I'm positive. I'm especially for us, for small importers, small producers. It could be the way for the future and the present as well.
Thank you very, very much, Camille. That was a great point of view from a boutique producer. We appreciate it. Gianfranco, I'm going to give this back to you.
Thank you very much. And now I will invite Bill to update us to the PPP program, and then we open up for the Q&A. Bill?
Thank you, Gianfranco, very much for, again, having me on for the third time. I also thank all the other panelists, Mr. Mondavi and Mr. Frescobaldi. I've had plenty of your product over the years. It's excellent. And Camilla Amarone is probably my favorite type of wine in the world, so I'm very happy to make your acquaintance. I'm going to have 3 points that I'd like to bring to the attention of the listeners today on the legal front. Number one, the PPP update. A couple weeks ago when we had our last program, I discussed that the legislation had been introduced but was buried in a larger bill that would have improved the PPP program. The good news is that there was some common sense prevailed, and the portion of the bill that improves the PPP program was pulled out and passed as separate legislation, which became effective at the end of last week. The 2 key points that people should bear in mind are, number one, that the period of time in which to spend the monies, which had been 8 weeks, and the outside deadline was this coming June, the end of this month, June 30, has been extended to 24 weeks, which is intended in part to permit people who have obtained the loans, which, by the way, if you don't have one, are still available. But it gives a longer period of time in which to spend the money in a manner that will provide for forgiveness, which for restaurants in particular, as well as some other businesses, is important, because of the inability to function either at all or in your normal manner. And the idea, hopefully, is that over that 24 weeks will permit you to use the money in a more productive fashion. The other change that was made that's material is that it had been before that 75% of the money spent to be forgiven had to be on payroll and related costs as opposed to other permitted costs such as rent. That has now been changed to 60%. So at this point, that means 40% of the money that you wish to have forgiven can be spent on, again, it still needs to be a permitted reason, which primarily would be outside of payroll, would be rent or mortgage interest if you're an owner. It also includes utilities. So those two changes to the program, there are others, but those are the two really most salient ones for this purpose, are hopefully intended to create people to more productively use PPP loans if they already have them, or if they still are interested in getting one. As I said, they are still available. There are two other things I want to bring to the attention because they are other alternatives to well, one's an alternative to PPP and one's an interesting development for New York City business owners. New York State has created what's called the New York Forward Loan Fund, NYFLF. It is a $100 million fund created by the state with certain backers. This is, again, it's a loan fund. It does not have a forgiveness aspect. It is not available to businesses who have already received PPP or an EIDL loan, the typical SBA small business emergency loan. But I'm aware that some people, for whatever reason, couldn't get PPP or didn't take PPP. And some people were having problems, particularly based on your citizenship status of receiving EIDL loans. So if you're in New York State, this is another loan opportunity. There are loans of up to $100,000 at 3% over a 5-year term. They can be used, by the way, for a broader array of matters than the PPP money. It can be used for working capital. It can be used to restock inventory. It can be used to refit your facility in order to meet the new requirements for reopening with social distancing requirements. However, this is for smaller size businesses, 20 or fewer employees or gross revenues less than 3 million. But for some people, that may be an option to be aware of. The final piece, again, is more local to New York City, but it is worth mentioning because it may be very important to some people. Commercial landlords, and when signing leases, frequently require business owners to provide personal guarantees. That can cause great hardship when there's a default. New York City Council, in the middle of May, passed a regulation or a law, it's called Regulation in the City, which provides that personal guarantees of commercial leases which are in default due to COVID-19 are declared canceled, okay? Now, I will tell you that the prevailing view within the number of people, including industry, and I'm sure the landlord side, are going to challenge once that tries to get used, whether there is authority to basically change people's contract. But it is something worth knowing if you are a business owner who is worried about a personal guarantee on a commercial lease in the city of New York. At least as of now, there is in effect a rule which would make that guarantee no longer enforceable against you if the default is related to COVID-19. So those are just 3 updates that I thought worth bringing. These are all matters that have a lot more complexity to them, but I think I wanted to take the opportunity Gianfranco provided to let people know of updates and options that they may have. Obviously, whether it's through myself or other lawyers or your banks, there are other places to learn more. Again, none of these things are as simple as they sound, but they are opportunities that can make a big difference for businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And before we start with the Q&A, I would like to add the last thing as a restaurateur. We've been talking about other forms of income like curbside pickup, delivery, catering, but in the bottom of my heart, and I think you too, everybody knows that there is nothing that can substitute the pleasure of having a dinner in a busy, noisy restaurant, see people around us, see waiters opening up a bottle of wine, popping up a bottle of champagne. So I am very positive as well about that. Gino, if you want to start with the Q&A.
Sure. We have a lot of great questions and we'll cover as many as we can. The first one, Peter, is for you. What is your favorite DTC platform, digital platform, direct to consumer? Which one or one or two that you find particularly effective, whether as a consumer or as a brand owner?
Well, there's lots of channels. It can't be terribly specific because it's a very broad spectrum. But we use at our hospitality center our website. We have a chat function which is relatively new on our website, which has been very valuable. And wine club and reaching out through phone contact with our wine club is very important. Has been very beneficial and retaining and then adding members as well. When I do, Zoom is the primary mechanism I use when I'm interfacing with customers through virtual tastings. So I hope that addresses at least some of the questions. If there's more, they can just email me directly.
Okay, great. And I know that people are looking at various online channels, like whether it's a wine.com or a Benchmark or these sort of things. But there's each have their own niche, I would expect. Another question, this one for Liberto. Frescobaldi, we know, has award-winning social media in Italy and is a leader in Italy in digital. Can you talk, Liberto, a little bit more about connecting with consumers digitally? Maybe recount the experience this past Sunday with the retail store in LA or something similar?
I think that we've been blessed on having a long time tradition family business that goes for many generations, 30 up to now, then different estates. So every wine has a story behind it that you have to just present it. It's I think that it's sometimes it's much more easy than what we think is to really speak about where you are, what you're doing. Consumers are becoming more and more willing to know where the product is coming. So not only wine, but also people are asking more and more what they're eating and where the food is coming from. So it's a question of really telling very frankly, very on a daily way what you're doing. So nothing really special about be constant and have a very frank approach and never trick people. So this is the thing, and then the wine speak for you, and I hope that we're doing the right thing, and we've done a lot of these social Zoom or Teams or Instagram. A lot of Instagram. Instagram these days can you can record your tasting and then it bounces in and out, and this helps, but nothing helps, and nothing is going to be as when you actually see people and finally you head out and give your hand. Now these days people don't know how to say hello to people. I want to go back and really hug everyone and possibly kiss people. What the heck? I'm the old way. I think that we are very physical. We're very down to earth. I love to hear Nunzio and Gianfranco and also Camilla that we are positive, but we are Italians. We've had the worst politic ever in the last 100 years. So we are positive for nature because we have to be positive. Because we have had over time the worst politics ever. So we have to be positive because we have to survive. And we are a lovely country, has been invaded by everyone. Everyone has loved Italy in the last 1,000 years. from north to south. Everyone comes in, and we're happy to have everybody come to our country, and we are positive to survive every day. So we are, but we are not stupid. We are. Let's be down to earth. We are actually very, very worried about this situation, but the only way is to do our job with great ability and be close to our clients. So, as you said, if we have to use social, we use the social, and we do exactly what we do when we are physically present with the people.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Question for you. Can you tell us of any changes that you'll be making in the way you sell and market your wines post-COVID? What are you learning now that you're going to apply beyond this crisis?
Well, first, let me start saying that this pause, this lockdown helped us to increase our education for the material that we sell every day. So I'm sure that many other importers and distributors, they spend a lot of time with Zoom meetings with the suppliers. In Pane Bianco, we have an average of 2 Zoom meetings every week where we can feel the experience as we can be there as much as possible through vineyards, through cellars, through the tales and storytellings of the suppliers that we represent. I also had the opportunity to share some of my knowledge, to some consumer event, which was a lot of fun. The post-COVID, nobody has the crystal ball. I mean, one thing for sure is that all of the forecasted sales and projects that we put in place at the end of last year, they all gone. We need to open the market. We need to go in the market. We need to go on the battlefield because we went to a war, basically. See how many people are injured. See how many people are, dead, unfortunately. For a company like mine, and many others, we have to also deal with the different problems. Account receivable, for example. There's a lot of companies that that they have hundreds of thousands of dollars that are still uncollected. And we don't know how many of those dollars will be collecting and when we'll be collecting. So we need to really scale that kind of impact, financial impact for small, medium, or larger distributor. There is something that, that we need to say. For the large corporations, I'm sure that, that they will restructure, the model to go to the market. I believe that, that if I were in that position, I would say that, that the marketing department will be fusing with the sales department as like we say, peanut butter and jelly. They cannot be detached. They have to be connected. In other words, the customer management is going to be along with the salespeople, more and more and more and more. Assisting the customer is going to be a key. For companies just like Pane Bianco, and there are hundreds like mine, the relationship, tools are still vital for us. The fact that, that you're still with a wine bag and selling wine, opening up a bottle and with the wine director, the restaurateur or the wine buyer, it's essential for us because we sell more than just a liquid. We sell what the producer has difficulties to put out there. Like I said before, family tradition, varietals that are known, very unknown places. We need constantly to bring that experience from on the other side of the world, closer to the tables, closer to the shelves of the, of the wine shops. That's why communication is very important. Of course, social media will play a big, huge impact more now than ever. When social media is positive, because we have a lot of garbage out there too, your organization is doing a great job in that sense. Communicating the right message is very important, because buyers, they will have less and less time to learn what they already have learned in the past. So professionalism is going to be more and more important. Technology will be more essential. By the end of the day, once again, I am so sorry if I use the same thing, but as everything else, Gianfranco is a testimony here, and the producers are here too. Passion is a driver. If you don't have that, you cannot go outside the door. Determination and passion is everything that that you need sometimes. And luck, So, so I don't know if I answer your question, but this is what I will do.
I'm going to address this question to Camila. Camila, what specifically are you doing to help your importer sell your wine right now differently than what you did before COVID?
Yes, these smart tasting are organized kind of like a tasting, a normal tasting, but our distributor are selling 2 bottles per customer, per family, let's say, and let's taste together. On the last smart tasting, we were around 40 people. And at the end of the tasting, every family, every customer bought like a case or more of my wine. So I just calculated the time I dedicated to this smart tasting compared to the time that I had to give thinking about planes, hotels, restaurants, and you could easily calculate that is much more better doing something like that travel so much, especially for us, because you can imagine a small producer need to stay in the cellar, in the vineyards. So sometimes for us it's really tough to take a plane and stay away abroad for months or even more. So for me, it's a really nice example how to support your clients and how to sell your bottles even staying at home.
Okay, thank you. And there's a second part to this question that maybe Liberto can help answer. What about pricing? Do you anticipate, Liberto or Camila, making any price adjustments to allow your importers to be more aggressive with the price points? Liberto?
Okay. We're going to do everything possible. I believe that pricing is, I think that these days is one of the tools. With some products, we may suggest some a little bit more, to become a little bit more aggressive. Nothing spectacular, but indeed, I believe that pricing is really on something that you play in the year end. You don't have a long-term vision. I believe that people like Gianfranco at his places wants to have good service, good quality, and is not the dollar less that is going to make a big change. Actually, he's going to be even more demanding. So what his service is demanding is going to be even more expensive. So I don't think that pricing is the tool. The tool is to be more present, to have a view to don't go out of stock. That is something that happens often in the United States. Being the three-tier system, very, very complicated also to move inventory from one state to another. So all of these things means to be even more professional on how you deal with your inventory. Probably what we're gonna have to face is to have a little bit less SKUs on the market because the market is gonna be less willing on the near future to have so many SKUs to deal. Again, restaurants have one of the biggest financial thing is the seller itself, so they need to move their inventory as quick as they can. So this is what we are trying to do, is to implement the system with more professional service at places like Gianfranco's.
Okay, thank you. And this question is for Bill. A very technical question. Can a business apply for the NYFLF if they applied for the employee retention tax credit?
Very good question, and I don't see that that's been definitively answered. The answer should be yes, because they, unlike the PPP, which was both a federal along with the employee tax retention, they would have kind of been getting a double dip in terms of how that would work. So the answer is that I would anticipate it shouldn't be, because it's the state loan that's not necessarily related to employment aspects as compared to the employee retention tax credit, which is a federal credit that is used to retain employees. So I haven't seen that question, to be very candid, but it would not make sense that they would cancel each other out for the reasons I just said.
Okay, thank you. Maybe one more question, Gianfranco, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is a tough question I hope we don't have too many distributor level audience here, but Southern and RNDC are both developing systems like automated systems. And Peter, maybe you can help answer this, and Liberto, but do you believe that automated systems are going to replace salespeople at the distributor level with the large distributors such as Southern and RNDC, automated ordering? Peter, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. First of all, I think this direction is inevitable as technology shift, and the COVID situation even forces it more towards that direction. I understand these systems are still under development and maybe just starting to be released out there. And you know, what they're doing, and this is alluded to earlier, is there's more burden put onto the wineries to actually sell, promote, introduce our wines to the marketplace. So this is just an added burden for us to go out there and have a robust sales force. And I do think it's going to be the smaller accounts that take advantage or will utilize this new channel or sales tool, I guess, from the distributors. I do think that there will still be quite a few salespeople out there calling on the larger accounts that need more hand-holding or like more hand-holding. But at the end of the day, this is mentioned earlier and echoed by others, is this truly, and it is a relationship business, and I don't want to see that relationship go away, and we'll continue to develop our relationships with our end customers.
Yeah, and again, I think the risk is that the bigger brands survive and the smaller brands have less access to market. Even within the same portfolio, Liberto, you have some wines that are much bigger brands and better distributed, and other wines that are more niche. What do you think about the future of automated sales in the major distributors like Southern Glazers or RNDC?
That you will not be able to lose the ability of sales people. There are some items that probably you will not need if you want to have a Panna or San Pellegrino in your account. You're gonna click on that, but there are some wines, some food, some niche products that you will yet need the ability of salespeople to promote them and to tickle your customers. Also to be different, what he's doing Nunzio with his company, and definitely Gianfranco in his accounts has wines that they are moving more easily. Some others instead that they have to be hand sale also by staff in the restaurant itself. So I think that things will not change so dramatically. Maybe for the next in the next 12 months, yes, it's going to be a little bit more practical and more pragmatic. The counts are going to be, but then things are going to go back to this beauty. I'm talking about wine. I also talk about my portfolio. There are some wines that are produced in some SKUs that we produce 700 bottles of them, and some others that we produce thousands of them. So they need to be sold in different ways, and we will not be able to not use the passion and the ability of a sales person that has had the attention to study at home and to get knowledge and to pass this knowledge to the customer. So let's don't think that the world is finished, and don't think the world has totally flipped around. Think that our world is a world of niches, and our customers love to experience new things. Very few customers. I don't know anybody. I don't know. I'm asking also to everybody here. Do you know anybody that has been drinking the same wine over his life, over and over again, the same? I think that would be terrible, very boring. I don't even want to get to meet this kind of person. I want to meet people that they drink Peter's wine, they drink Camilla's wine, they drink my wine, and they drink many other people's wine and portfolio of Nunzio. This world is a fun world, and there is always something to learn. And behind a bottle of wine, there is a world to know. You Google it, and you are taken back there, and let's enjoy this beautiful world of wine. So no, the world is not finished, and there is space for anybody that does great bottles of wine.
Well, I think that's a great way to end this discussion. I want to respect everybody's time. So John, thank you, Liberto. John,
Grazie.
Would you like to close?
Grazie. First of all, let me thank all the panelists. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. I want to also thank our moderator, Gino. Great job. And our next scheduled webinar will be Monday, July 20. We hope you can join us again. And also, if you are, thank you very much for all our members to supporting Gruppo Italiano. If you are not members yet of Gruppo Italiano, please visit gruppo-italiano.com and support us. Thank you very much. We're going to see you the 20th. After that, the restaurants are opening up, and we hope that we're going to be busy. Thank you very much. Bye.
Grazie Gianfranco, grazie a tutti.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Peter.
Ciao.
Bye, Peter.
Bye.
Ciao.